Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the podcast. I'm joined today by Crockett Carothers, who is a significantly more famous podcaster than I am. So I am honored to have you here, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Most people know, but why don't you give yourself a little bit of introduction? Who are you? What do you do? How'd we get together?
Yeah, I'm Crockett Carothers. I've been obsessed in the past few years with business. I'm coming from a ranching background, cowboy background, dove into business, and then combined those two into the Wealthy Cowboy Show, where we talk about business, money, building those, managing those, and then everybody on there is related back to agriculture, ranching, rodeo, something like that. Really just to give back to like who I used to be. You know, I always wanted more, but I just didn't know. I didn't even know what was out there, what was possible. So that's big, is to give back to and educate people what you can do and kind of how you can do it.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect lead in, because what I'd really like to do today is talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Like, where did you start? What got you to where you are now? Wealthy Cowboy is not kind of like ranching for profit. Lots of people kind of laugh when they hear that. I don't think it's funny at all, but I don't think you do either. But let's talk about how you started and how'd you get to this, and how'd you do so much learning along the way?
Yeah, so started out, like I said, I really didn't know, and it kind of, a bunch of stuff happened at one time. I was turning 30, I was settling down, got engaged, we had a baby on the way. All this stuff kind of happened at one time. It really changed my perspective on life. I realized as a man, I needed to be the provider and the protector of the family. So knew I needed to make more money. It was always about me before that. It was just, I cowboyed and worked and I spent what I had, and then I'd just go make more. So I knew I needed to build something for the future for my family. So I got into, accidentally, kind of just listening and reading cowboy stuff. I kind of started shifting, just stumbled upon social media and on the podcast app, found some business podcasts, and that just kept growing and growing. I really liked the storytelling of all the entrepreneurs and founders and their stories, and it really just consumed me. Every time I was in the truck going somewhere, I was listening to a podcast. I got into listening to audibles. At the house, I was reading books, started taking business courses, investing courses, social media courses, mentorships, all this stuff, and just went real heavy into it. I found sales, so that got me into learning about making money and the whole money game, personal finance, how you make money, how you invest money. I'm kind of getting into now the learning more about investing, about taxes, stuff like that. Never been good about bookkeeping or anything like that. So I'm just kind of starting to make that. I've always just been focused on driving revenue for the past few years, driving income. So
just like a sales guy, that's what they do. They drive revenue.
Yeah. Really, all this was just, like I said, the family was starting. I didn't want to sacrifice being with them and spending a lot of time with them and raising my kids and everything. And I love the ranching way of life. I love being out on the ranch, being horseback. So I try to integrate all this together. I want to make money. I want to be profitable, but I also want to live that lifestyle, and I also want to do it with my family.
Yeah, cool. Did you grow up in a family that was business oriented?
I would say, like, Dad was always a hustler. He was he was gone. He was working. He still is an electrician, and all he knew was hard work. So that's all he did. They would leave when I was young. He would leave out at like 4:00 in the morning and not get home till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So he was really sacrificing a lot for us and just putting in a lot of hard work. That's all he knew. And it did pay off. It's starting to pay off. It took a lot of years of that, but he's always been, his own business owner. He's been a contractor himself. So kind of had that work for yourself mentality. And he always put that into me. I wanted to go get a job because that's the only way I knew how to make money. But he was always like, no, you need to do something else. You need to figure out a way to make money and not go to work for somebody else, basically. I thought it was going to be with a rope in the arena and the rope and pin, but things evolve and happen, and that didn't happen. I made a living cowboying for a little bit, but it wasn't very lucrative.
So, okay, so your dad, him working as an electrician, right? He's basically a self-employed army of one, right? So he
Mhm.
owns his own business, but he's did he have employees and stuff, or did he?
Yeah, he had a crew working for him, but I mean, he had to be there too.
Yeah, yeah, okay, good. So then you grew up around ranching. So your other parts of your family actually ranched, right? You said your uncle ranched.
Yeah, so the brand that I still use today and my uncle and cousins still use today is WC. It was William Carothers. My great grandpa started right there in Coryell County where we're at. So everybody's used that same brand and we just put our initial on the shoulder. So it's pretty cool to go through that. But yeah, dad lost his deal, his operation in like the 80s in there when credit was high and there was a drought and everything. So he lost his deal, but my grandpa stayed in it till he died. My uncle still does it and he's really scaled it, through sacrifice and hard work. He's scaled his operation too. So I was always right there around it, right there with it.
Yeah, cool. Cow calf, stockers, all of the above. What kind of stuff are
Cow
you doing?
calf, yeah.
Yeah, great. And how about your dad? Now he struggled in the '80s. Has he encouraged you in the ranching deal, or was he trying to get you to do something else?
Yeah, he's always loved it. He always pushed me to live that lifestyle, the cowboy lifestyle. When I started rodeoing, he worked his butt off so we could go rodeo on the weekends. He's addicted to horses, loves horses, and sometimes to a fault. But he's always. I'd say he kind of maybe lives a little bit vicariously through me.
Sure. Awesome. If you don't know your numbers, you can't manage your business, plain and simple. That's why at Rancherite, we help ranchers understand their financial picture with clear reporting, smart systems, and practical advice. Whether you're growing or just getting organized, we'll help you make sense of your numbers and make better decisions. Get started at ranchritellc.com. You mentioned that the sort of pivot caused by, getting married and having kids and that sort of thing. You've got one kid and one on the way, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. 3 years old for the oldest?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yep.
Boy or girl, name, all that?
Girl. Yeah, girl, and we got a boy on the way.
Fun. And it's neat how that changes your thinking. I was late to the having children game, and man, it does change your perspective on things, that's for sure. So I am really curious. You've learned a lot over the years about, business and ranching and kind of how to put those together. I'm really curious to know what do you want to teach your kids this way, and maybe really emphasizing those things, those good lessons that you got, plus the things you've learned since then that have really been game changers for you.
Yeah, I mean, the coolest thing about ranch life, cowboy life is, all the values that you learn from that, hard work, keeping your word, just being a good person. It just most people are in the industry in that way of life are just really good people. The only downfall I want to add to it is learning about money, how money works, how interest works, how banks work, how you can leverage money, how it's good, bad, all the different things, and how to really run a business for profit. I think that the romanticism side of ranching is it's one of the coolest things and one of the worst things. So we forget to be a profitable business sometimes because it's such a good way of life. So yeah, I really want to combine those two things and teach them. I mean, the hard work, anything you do, you got to have hard work and have integrity. But also, if you can learn money, money kind of runs the world. So if you can learn money, you're going to live a lot better life.
Yep. I totally agree. And I think there are so many misconceptions around that, misconceptions around debt and just sort of basic things where we don't have a full understanding, or we actually have a wrong understanding that kind of leads people the wrong way, right?
Hmm.
Is one common stereotype I hear a lot is that, in order to make money and accumulate wealth, you have to be evil of some kind. You have to either be crooked or dishonest or cheat people. Is that what you found?
Yeah, that was the thoughts that I had was around in a small town. That's what a lot of people think. And then as I started studying these successful people and getting around better people and stuff, that's just not the case. And especially a lot of these big companies, these people start out to solve a problem and bring value to the world, and they're still doing it. I mean, you just think about any time there's a fundraiser at your church or in town for the school or somebody gets hurt or something like that, who's going to be the biggest contributor? The people with the most money, they can give the most. So I think that's the really cool thing is to be able to see that, and I started recognizing that, like, well, if I can go like right now, it's gonna be a big part of my network worth to go give $100 to somebody to a fundraiser or something. But if my net worth is bigger and I can go give $100,000 to somebody, that would be way cooler. So, yeah, I got to see that and just the value that the business owner provides. That's a huge thing in society right now is like we don't have ownership of a lot. It's a lot of corporations and a lot of employees instead of small business owners like it used to be. And small business owners employ the people in the town, so you're seeing small towns die off. It's a whole issue. But yeah, the business owner is huge, and those are the people that can give back and contribute to society, employ people who also it helps them feed their families and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you've talked a number of times on the podcast, and just to say, I'm a regular podcast listener of yours, and it's an awesome podcast. I love the guests you have on, love the
I
topics
appreciate
you
it.
cover. You bet, man. It's good. You have talked a number of times about the importance of value creation, being of value, creating value for others, that sort of thing. And I feel like that's the piece so much of our current society misses when they think about people that have accumulated wealth, where they think of Jeff Bezos as kind of being a successful guy who's probably just always been that way. And what he's been is a guy who provided value, right? He does. I mean, his value shows up at our house almost every day. I don't know about yours, but we live
Mhm.
away from the grocery store, and it's pretty fantastic for stuff to be, or any store. And it's pretty nice for things to be able to just show up at our doorstep. That makes our family's life better. We don't have to drive to town and go walk around in the store. Now, not everybody agrees with that, and that's fine. That's not valuable to everybody. That's okay, but that's really what he's tried to do, and it's been a value for a lot of people. Same thing with things like Netflix or YouTube or whatever all these different things are. So that's how we accumulate wealth, is providing a lot of value. Yeah, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on that, but like I said, the stuff you've done on the podcast has been great about it.
Yeah, that's what entrepreneurship is like somebody sees a problem in the world and they go create a solution for it. And then I think it's Elon Musk that says the bigger problems you solve, the more money you make, the more money you're going to get paid. So, he's solving big problems. That's why he's the richest man in the world. Jeff Bezos is up there as well. But even in your local little town or something like that, you can solve problems. Ranchers were out here trying to feed the world and trying to do that as efficiently as possible. You're solving a problem, and that's what you're providing value to somebody. I've always thought for years that us feeding the world is very undervalued, but that's a whole society thing that we'll have to deal with. But if you live in a kind of a lack closed-minded mindset instead of an abundance mindset, it's really going to hinder you. Like I always used to think, I had to go. Somebody out there had my money. I needed to go get money from somebody. But when I started having an abundance mindset, that there's plenty out there for everybody, and if I just go out there and help as many people as possible, the money will come in whatever way it's going to come. But if you just lead with value and help other people have better lives, like they're going to want to give something back to you in some way.
Yeah, I love it. And I think we see it's so funny because we see so many examples of that over and over again. And yet we find ourselves in this culture war, not only in ag, but throughout all of, I think the US and definitely Canada and Europe, but throughout the Western world, of this sort of zero sum version of it. In order for somebody to get rich, somebody else has to get poor, as opposed to we can actually, I love the George W. Bush quote of we can make the pie higher for everybody. It really is. Value is an expanding pie. Money is not, the money supply is one thing, but value creation that comes from innovation and risk taking and courage and, just willingness to get out there and try things, experimentation, that sort of thing. Like there's an amazing value creation that happens that makes everyone's life better. And I mean, I think in the United States, and frankly, most of Western Europe, there's no better example than what's happened over the last 150 years. If you look at things like rates of poverty and the amount of time people spend working for food and shelter and that sort of thing, like, I don't know about you, but I mean, we just don't spend that much time working for food and shelter. We think food and shelter is expensive right now, but if we compare that to, my grandparents who were born in 1903 or my great grandparents, born in the 19th century, like it's trivial compared to what they went through. So,
Yeah, you worked all day for your food and shelter.
right. Just to have a place to live and enough to eat, and sometimes it didn't work, right? My grandparents lived through the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. Like it was a hard time. You talk about what your dad went through in the 80s. I was just a little kid then, but man, it was rough. I remember
Mhm.
Jimmy Carter's deal and waiting in line to get gas when we were having the oil embargo with the Middle East. And I mean, there was all kinds of crazy things.
The best description I've heard about the pie is most people think of it as a pie, like you need your little slice of pie, everybody has their slice of pie, but that takes away from somebody else. But the best way I've heard it is going back to the Bible and Adam and Eve. God created a garden for them to live in, and when you pick something out of a garden, it regenerates itself and it grows back. So that's how you have to think about it: is the more stuff, the more you pick, the more you go out there and pick, and then you can take care of the garden, the more it grows back.
Yep. Cool. And that's the thing I feel like we see in agriculture more than anything. I've really become convinced that there are two groups of people that have the opportunity to sort of save America right now. And one of them is people from ag. And it's because although there are plenty of ag kids that are entitled, we tend to be less entitled. We tend to know how to work hard, that sort of thing. But also we see that growth and sort of recreation process so intimately most of the time. And then the other, frankly, is like kids of first generation immigrants, or even those first gen immigrants who they come, they work hard, they've got a dream, they live the American dream. They go from living in poverty in some country where the government does not allow them freedoms. They come here and experience freedom and they kill it, and they go into tech or they go into, service industry, that sort of thing, and they do a great job. And those are the people that really understand what the values of our founding fathers were and what the power of that vision is in terms of building a great country that provides opportunity for people, obviously throughout our country, but frankly, well beyond throughout the world. And has given people a vision of what's possible instead of just what has been. Pretty cool stuff. So let's do this. I want to wrap up for this episode. I've got another episode I'd really like to record with you if you're willing, but I want to get more into some of that stuff. So Crockett, thanks for joining me today. Where can people get a hold of you? Give us a little idea of what you got going on.
Yeah, the Wealthy Cowboy Show comes out right now. We're at twice a week on podcast platforms, Apple, YouTube, Spotify, and then any social media platform. If you put in Wealthy Cowboy, you're either gonna find me or the show page. I'm most active on Facebook or possibly Instagram. If somebody wants to message me or get a hold of me, I would do it there. And I put the most content out on Facebook. So if you're going to follow me just in one spot, that'd be probably the spot. And then follow the podcast, of course.
Awesome. Good. Cool. Thanks for being here. We will talk soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.